We're going on to our third panel. And ladies and gentlemen, this is all about, it's all about politicians.
Εσείς ήσασταν στο Auschwitz?
Όχι, αλλά έχω διαβάσει όπως έχουμε διαβάσει όλοι.
Ναι, έχω διαβάσει και πολλά βιβλία τα οποία αμφισβητούν τον αριθμό των 6 εκατομμυρίων Εβραίων. Και λένε ότι είναι μια υπερβολή.
Μπορεί να είναι 5, αυτό δεν έχει σημασία.
Η οποία πλάστηκε, το λένε μάλιστα αντιφασίστες συγγραφές.
Δεν υπήρχαν φούρνοι?
Όχι, δεν υπήρχαν φούρνοι. Αυτό είναι ένα ψέμα.
Oui, ça m'étonne pas.
Oui, voilà.
Écoutez, on fera une fournée la prochaine fois.
I believe that even though I have nothing against the people or Muslims or anybody for that reason, I believe that Islam and freedom are incompatible.
Quand un député français de ce Parlement ose dire que le problème qui a eu lieu en Norvège, c'était pas le massacre, mais c'était la naïveté du gouvernement norvégien qui accepte la société multiculturelle, il faut que ce Parlement dise que M. Le Pen est une honte pour ce Parlement d'avoir dit ces paroles.
Il y a un nouvel antisémitisme qui s'est banalisé et qui mêle cause palestinienne, djihadisme, détestation d'Israël et haine de la France et de nos valeurs. Et ce nouvel antisémitisme reprend tout simplement la thèse ignoble, insupportable de la théorie du complot juif. Ces mots, ces slogans entendus ont fait mal, blessent la République, blessent la France et ils peuvent tuer. Il faut regarder cette vérité en face.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les députés, je vous remercie très chaleureusement. Je veux prendre quelques secondes de ce temps de réponse pour vous remercier du fond du cœur pour le soutien que vous m'avez toujours manifesté.
Der Menschen, die eine Kippa oder eine Kette mit einem Davidstern tragen, anpöbelt, angreift oder krankenhausreif schlägt, der schlägt und verletzt uns alle. Wer Grabsteine auf jüdischen Friedhöfen schändet, der schändet unsere Kultur. Synagogen zum Ziel von Hass und Gewalt macht, der rüttelt an den Fundamenten unserer freiheitlichen Gesellschaft.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us. This is our last discussion panel. It's actually going to be a slightly different format. Maybe that says something about the nature of politicians, but a few of our speakers would like to make opening remarks before we get into a debate. So this time, I'm going to call up our speakers one by one, and at least the first three of them, I think, have short opening remarks to make, which I believe they're going to make at the podium. and then we'll sit them down and we'll try and have as much discussion as we can before we run out of time. As the video is set up, you know, this is about leadership. It's about politicians stepping up to the plate and sending sometimes tough messages to their own people. It's about responsibility in politics, not just looking for the easy option or pandering to win votes, but actually showing real leadership. So I'm going to be very interested to hear from our collection of politicians, and please give a warm welcome to our first speaker. He's come from Israel. He's the Speaker of the Knesset, so give a warm welcome to Yuli Yoel Edelstein. So, Mr. Edelstein, take the podium, and then when you finish, come and sit down.
Good afternoon. I have an announcement to make. We are all speakers here, so we had a short informal session of the non-existing parliament and decided that we are not going to start with opening remarks. We'll join you over there for people in the audience who are very patient to have more time. I will just use the mic to thank very much in my name, in the name of the Knesset, all the organizers, the European Jewish Congress and Dr. Cantor, our Speaker of the Czech Parliament, Mr. Hamáček, and all those who were involved in organizing this important event. And without further ado, I'll take...
Oh, okay. Well, so much for me saying that politicians always need to make a speech. Maybe it's not true. So am I right in thinking then that all of you are now just going to take your seats and we'll get a debate going? Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so let me call up one by one, so you can give them all a very warm round of applause. We've seen him already, but please, actually we haven't seen him already. I'm just, because I've seen him already, but you haven't. Please welcome the chairman of the Chamber of Deputies of the Czech Parliament, Jan Hamáček. Good to see you. And from Turkey, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to need your headsets because some of our speakers are going to speak in their own languages today. From Turkey, please welcome Cemil Çiçek. Cemil Çiçek is the Speaker of the National Assembly in Turkey, and we welcome him. And I believe your remarks, Mr. Çiçek, are going to be in Turkish, so you will need your headsets for that. Now, also on our panel, please give a very warm welcome to the President of the Chamber of Deputies of Romania, that is Valeriu Stefan Zgonia. Good to see you. Yeah, you too. Thank you for coming. And our final panelist, who again I believe you may need your headset for because I think he intends to speak in Russian, is the Deputy Chairman of the Council of the Federation of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation. I hope you kept up with all of that. That's Ilyas Umakhanov. Well, that would be easier. Panel, thank you for joining me. For those of you who don't have mics, then a handheld mic will do the job. Don't worry. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask a question which I'd like your responses on, and then we'll get into a debate. I think it is fair to say that across Europe, we see the rise of extremist parties, extreme left and extreme right. Some of them have been described as neo-Nazi. Some are deemed by many to be inciting dangerous levels of tension within their own societies. How should political systems across Europe respond to this? You know, where should the red lines be drawn between acceptable political ideology and unacceptable extremism? And actually, I'm not going to start with you, Mr. Edelstein, because I want your comments on Europe, but I don't want you to start because obviously you're sitting in Israel, you're not sitting in Europe. So we'll start in the Czech Republic.
Sure. Thank you very much. Does it work?
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, I think it's one of the most important questions we have to answer as politicians, although I would argue that the situation is not the same for all the countries of Europe. You have countries where this issue is more present than others. Being from the Czech Republic, I should say that so far Czech Republic has been an exception. We didn't come across this issue. We are a very homogeneous society. And
really? Are you saying there's no extremism in the Czech Republic?
I would say it's marginal. We had to deal with it on a couple of occasions, but it's not so widespread as somewhere else. But still, that doesn't mean that we are neglecting this issue. And I think what we have seen over here should serve us as a wake-up call, because if you compile all these statements together, it's quite terrifying. And I think the answer has to be formulated on the European level. It's a test of maturity for us politicians, whether we can agree that we would jointly fight this phenomenon, or whether we would be lured into something like we have seen on the picture who are trying to...
What do you think right now, because obviously you sit in the Czech Parliament, but you look across Europe, your neighbors, and across the continent. There's been a lot of discussion in the last 2 hours of whether there is a lack of political will. It's easy to draw up fine declarations at the Brussels European Parliament or the Commission and make a commitment to stamping out racism, race hate and extremism and incitement. But on a national level, there appears to be a lack of political will to act from political leaders. Would you accept that?
Perhaps lack of leadership? Yeah, I would probably accept that, because I think we need politicians who lead, because this is something we have to tackle head on. And the second thing I see is this feeling of insecurity among the population of Europe. It doesn't have to be physical insecurity, it could be economical, social insecurity. And when people are afraid or insecure, they tend to fall for people like those who have spoken on the board.
But just if I may push you a little bit, because it's interesting, you know, you say, well, we in the Czech Republic don't really have a problem, so, you know, it's not really about us. But we just heard the lady from Sweden speaking on behalf of the Roma community, saying it is disgusting that here in the Czech Republic, a prison camp which was used to house Roma prisoners taken by the Nazis is now a pig farm.
Yep.
Now, you know, you're a mainstream Czech politician. You sit in a parliament which could do something about that, and yet there hasn't been the will, presumably, in this country to do anything about it. Why?
Well, I think we have to change that.
Yeah, but you shouldn't need to come to a conference like this to have me make you say, oh, we should change it. Why hasn't it happened?
This government understands the problem, and this government is trying to resolve it. I think it will still need some time, but I think our government is...
Why does it need time? It seems to, surely anybody, it's totally disrespectful and unacceptable. It sends totally the wrong message about modern European politics if you can't automatically ensure that that sort of disrespect doesn't happen.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think this government is the first government that is taking it seriously and is trying to resolve it.
Okay. Let's move down the panel a little bit. If I may, Mr. Číček, you come here from Turkey. Now, Turkey wants to be in the European Union, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think it still does. What's your take on this 70th anniversary and the discussion we're having about trying to find ways to take real actions to fight a rising tide of race hate, extremism, anti-Semitism in Europe? Do you see Turkey as a fundamental part of this movement, and what do you think Turkey can offer this debate?
Teşekkür ederim. Evvela böyle bir toplantıda bulunmaktan memnuniyetimi ifade etmek istiyorum. Türkiye olarak ve Müslüman bir ülke olarak bu toplantıya bizatihi katılmamız bile Holocaust konusundaki Türkiye'nin tavrını açıkça ortaya koymaya yeter diye düşünüyorum. Dolayısıyla Holokost'un büyük bir vahşet olduğunu hepimizin kabul ediyor olması gerekir. Onun için buradayız. Ancak buna ilaveten günümüzde diğer konuşmacılar da zaman zaman dile getirdi. İslam karşıtlığı, ayrımcılık, ırkçılığın yeni şekilleri, bir kısım nefret söylemleri aslında günümüzde yeni sınamalar, yeni problemler olarak karşımızda duruyor. Türkiye bunların hepsine karşıdır. Ben bugün buradayım meclis başkanı olarak, yarın Dışişleri Bakanımız Ağustos'ta bulunacak ve yarın belki toplantıdan erken ayrılacağız. Türkiye'deki Musevi vatandaşlarımızla bu maksatla yine meclisin katkı verdiği bir toplantıya katılacağız. O halde bu tartışmalardan şöyle bir sonuca varmamız lazım. Hepimizi rahatsız eden ve rahatsız etmesi gereken ayrımcılığın her türlüsüne, radikalizmin her türlüsüne, ırkçılığın her türlüsüne birlikte bir tavır ortaya koymadığımız takdirde bir ülkenin tek başına yapacağı çalışmaların yetmeyeceğini görüyoruz. Nitekim bu söylediklerimizin hepsi sonuçta terör eylemleriyle sonuçlanıyor. Terörizmin her türlüsünden en fazla sıkıntı çekmiş bir ülkeyiz biz. Senelerdir bağırıyoruz, gelin işbirliği yapalım. Bizim tek başımıza çabamız bu belayı bölgeden ve dünyadan def etmeye yetmiyor. Etnik terörü yaşadık, yeterli işbirliği olmadı. Şimdi DAEŞ denilen bir başka radikal terör var. Yarın başkaları çıkacak. O zaman tüm siyasetçiler olarak bu konularda samimi, hiçbir ayrım yapmadan bir duruş ortaya koymamız lazım. Elbette bu toplantıda öne çıkan Paris'teki saldırıyı nefretle kınadık ve kınıyoruz. Terör eylemlerini kınarken önüne arkasına herhangi bir cümle koymamamız lazım. Kim işlenirse işlesin, kime karşı işlenirse işlensin ve hangi ülkede işlenirse işlensin ortak bir tavır ortaya koymalıyız. Mesela Paris'tekini kınarken Boko Haram'ın yaptığını göz ardı edersek olmaz. 2 gün evvel hayatını kaybeden Japon vatandaşına karşı aynı hisleri duymazsak olmaz. Suriye'de, Irak'ta yaşananlara karşı birlikte bir tavır ortaya koymadığımız takdirde o zaman bu söylemler politik maksatlara alet edilmiş olur. Birincisi budur. İkincisi biz politikacılar olarak yaşadığımız ülkede bir kısım sıkıntılar var, zorluklar var hepimizin. Bu sıkıntıları, bu zorlukları, özellikle ekonomik zorluklar var, istihdam sıkıntıları var vesaire var. Bunları o ülkeye şu veya bu sebeple göç etmiş insanlara yüklediğimiz takdirde bu başka beraberinde sıkıntılar ve sorunlar getirmektedir. Üçüncüsünde de dışlayıcı olmamak lazım. İsveç'ten katılan Sayın Milletvekili'nin söylemine ben de katılıyorum. Şayet o ifade etmeseydi Romanların durumunu belki de hiçbirimiz gündeme getirmeyecektik. O halde dışlayıcı olmak yerine daha bütünleştirici, daha değerli toplu bir ortak tavrı koymamız gerekiyor. Siyasetçiler sadece söylemekle de kalmamalı. Bakınız biz çoğu zaman çok doğru şeyler söylüyoruz ama söylediğimiz doğruların arkasına doğru eylemler, doğru faaliyetler koyamıyoruz. Eğer bunu yapamadığımız takdirde bu sadece konjonktürel bir açıklama olur. Günü kurtaran açıklamalar olur. Sadece oy elde edebilmek için yaptığımız açıklamalar olur. O halde belki son olaylarda yaşanan birliktelik görüntüsünü terörün her türlüsüne, ayrımcılığın her türlüsüne, İslam karşıtlığının her türlüsüne karşı elbette Holocaust dahil bunu ortaya koyabildiğimiz takdirde bundan yönettiğimiz toplumlarda, siyaset yaptığımız toplumlarda etkilenecektir. Buradan daha sağlıklı, daha netice alıcı bir mücadele yöntemini ortaya koymuş oluruz. Bir başka husus bunu yaparken artık Türkiye'de, ülkemizde ve başka ülkelerde siyaseti sadece siyasetçiler yapmıyor. En azından siyasi partiler kadar sivil toplum da var. Sivil toplumun önemi her geçen gün daha da artıyor ve belki de siyasi partilerden daha fazla öne çıkıyor. O halde siyasi partilerin, siyasetçilerin sivil toplumla da daha yakın bir işbirliği içerisinde hem kendi ülkelerimizde hem de uluslararası camiada daha yakın bir işbirliği içerisinde olmamız gerekiyor.
If I may, I'm going to ask you two brief questions, if I may. The first one is this. There's been discussion of the importance of history and truth-telling. And, you know, I ask you this because Turkey is still on a long-term pathway to membership of the European Union. At least that's the theory. Whether it'll ever happen, we don't know, but that's the theory. So 2 quick questions. One, would it be an important signal, do you think, of Turkey's position on issues of tolerance and truth-telling in history to end your country's criminalization of those who talk about an Armenian genocide?
Evvela çok teşekkür ederim. Şimdi Türkiye bir taraftan Avrupa Birliği'ne girmek istiyor. Eğer engeller çıkarılmazsa bu konudaki samimiyeti defaatle test edilmiştir. Maalesef bu konuda adaletli bir tavrın olmadığını söylemek durumundayım. Biz eksikliklerimizin farkındayız. Bunu gidermek için de yoğun bir çabayı gösterdik, göstermeye de devam ediyoruz. Bunda kimsenin tereddütünün olmaması lazım. Burada tartışılan konuların başında bir kısım yasal düzenlemelerden ibaret kaldığı takdirde birçok konuyu çözememiş oluruz. Hiç temas edilmeyen bir konu var. Tartıştığımız konular esas itibariyle özgürlüklerle alakalı. Çoğumuz Avrupa Konseyi'nin, Avrupa Birliği'nin üyesi ülkeler var ama biz değiliz. Ama hep birlikte Avrupa Konseyi'nin biz üyesiyiz. Sizler de üyesisiniz, bu katılımcıların çoğu. Bir ortak belgemiz var. Avrupa İnsan Hakları Sözleşmesi. Bir de onun yorumunu yapan Avrupa İnsan Hakları Mahkemesi var. Tartıştığımız konuların çoğunun sözleşme açısından yorumunu bu mahkeme yapıyor. Eğer bu mahkemenin kararları bizim açımızdan bağlayıcı olacaksa, ona itibar edeceksek, belki çok şeyi konuşmak yerine bu türlü kararlar üzerinden soruna bakmak, ortak noktada buluşmak açısından bir çıkış yolu olabilecektir. Ermeni meselesiyle ilgili olarak biz defaatle söyledik. Burada çoğunluk parlamento başkanlarından oluşuyor elbette. Parlamentolar uluslararası bir ceza mahkemesi değil. Geçmişteki olaylar bilim adamlarının, tarihçilerinin karar vereceği bir husus. Biz bugünü ve geleceği inşa etmeliyiz. Biz tarihimizle yüzleşmeye hazırız. Bu konuda herhangi bir endişemiz de yok. Bu konular tarihçiler tarafından incelenir, araştırılır, ortaya konulur. Biz buna varız. Ama o türlü bilimsel çabaları bir tarafa bırakarak sadece siyasi sebeplerle bir kısım kararlar parlamentolardan çıkarılmaya çalışılırsa korkarım ki bu kadar parlamento başkanını bir araya getiremezsiniz. Herkes gider kendi parlamentosundan politikasını beğenmediği ülkeyle ilgili böyle bir karar alıverir. O zaman bu soykırım kavramını da dejener etmiş oluruz. Halbuki bunun içini doğru doldurmak lazım, tanımını doğru koymak lazım. Belki birçok ülkede olmayan bir şey yapıldı. Türkiye'de ben Adalet Bakanı iken 2005'te soykırımı Türk Ceza Kanunu'na koyduk. 2014'te de nefret suçları ile ilgili ceza kanunumuza hükümler koyduk. Demek ki Türkiye aslında burada tartışılan konularla ilgili samimidir ve gereğinde imkan ölçüsünde yapmaya çalışmaktadır. Elbette eksiklikler olabilir. Hangi ülkenin yok ki? Onu da oturup konuşmak gerekecektir.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure I got a direct answer to my question, but I don't want to get stuck on that issue, so I'll take your answer and I'll move on. One more specific one to you, sir. Understandably, I think a lot of the focus of our discussion so far has been on anti-Semitism in Europe today, but you mentioned a word which we need to consider as well. You talked about Islamophobia in Europe today. Viewed from Turkey, when you hear people like Yoram Dinstein talking about new actions that need to be taken, including, I think, well, it may not be in Yoram's new model law, but other people are talking about the need to ensure that all clergy, including Muslim clergy, working in Europe are trained in Europe. People are talking about new monitoring and supervision of mosques and indeed other religious houses to ensure that extremism isn't peddled in these places. People are talking about monitoring the religious schools in Europe to ensure that extremism isn't inculcated into young people. When you hear about these concrete proposals for changes in Europe, do you see them as sensible, or do you see them as part of the word you used before, Islamophobia?
Şimdi Avrupa'nın birçok ülkesinde Müslümanlar yaşıyor. Acaba kaç tane cami kundaklandı, yakıldı veya tecavüze maruz kaldı? Bunlara bakmamız lazım. Bu bir. İkincisi, artık günümüz dünyasında insanların fikirleri sadece ülke içindeki tartışmalardan etkilenmiyor. Sosyal medya diye bir şey var. Bilgi kirliliği diye bir konu var. Bütün bunları yan yana getirdiğinizde elbette toplumların içerisinde yanlış fikirleri, sapkın fikirleri ve eylemleri ortaya koyanlar çıkacaktır. Onun için dedim ki burada biz siyasetçilere önemli görevler düşüyor. Din adamlarına da önemli görevler düşüyor. Aşırıcılığı tasvip etmeyen, bunu doğru bulmayan, bunun kendi inancım açısından söylüyorum, İslam açısından doğru bulmadığını söyleyen pek çok din adamı var. Bunların başında Türkiye'deki Diyanet İşleri Başkanı, belki Paris'teki olaylardan sonra en fazla üzerinde ittifak edilecek açıklamayı yaptı. Biz bunu yapmaya çalışıyoruz. Ama demin söyledim, bir ülkenin yapması, bir ülkenin çaba göstermesi yetmez. Bahsettiğimiz konularla ilgili uluslararası bir işbirliği çaba olmadığı takdirde alınacak tedbirler ister istemez eksik kalır. Ben işbirliği konusunun üzerinde duruyorum. Mevzuatta işbirliği, uygulamalarda işbirliği. Üçüncüsü, söylediğimiz fikirlerin arkasına doğru örnekleri koyarak işbirliği yapmamız gerekir.
Okay, all right. Now, Mr. Zgonya from Romania, I don't want to ask you a question that's specific to Romania. I just want you to reflect on this as a senior politician in your country. We just had a little debate about Golden Dawn, and our contributor, a lady from Greece, said, you know, what's amazing about it is that half the party leadership is locked up. We now know the truth about Golden Dawn and their connections to criminality, and yet still, almost 7% of the Greek population voted for them. Still, even after it's become plain what they are. There are other parties in Europe that are doing very well, which appear to have, you know, messages that are divisive and pander to hate and division within countries. I'm thinking maybe of Jobbik in Hungary.
Hungary, yes. Or attack in
So
Bulgaria
here's the philosophical question for a politician. Where does responsibility really lie for the rise of these extremist parties? Does it lie with the organizers, the leaders of these parties who peddle messages which sort of, you know, brainwash people? Or does the real responsibility lie with the people themselves who have a set of prejudices which these politicians simply pander to? Where is the responsibility to be put?
Thank you very much for your question. I look on the first two panels, and you know, the answer is on the declaration that we propose. The European Jewish Congress, the Knesset from Israel State, Mr. Hamacek and the Czech Chamber of Deputy and Romanian Chamber of Deputy, that yes, we still have a problem now in 2015 in Europe. Let's face it and look at on that. And I think we have three pillars to follow. First is the media. Media have an important role to teach young generation and people what's happening 17 years ago. And we forgot that also today we celebrate 15 years after the Stockholm Declaration. And if we have seen an increase of attacking the Roma population and the Jewish community in the last couple of years in Europe. And yes, they look on the politicians because we ask them to vote us what we can do to change mentalities and bring all the people together. Tolerance is enough or is not enough? What can do media for changing these kind of things? Second, I think education needs a different approach. We must fill the young generation with those values and principles that our people, our fathers and our mothers teach us after the Second World War. Otherwise, it's quite impossible because, you know, globalization brings you values and humor is something very good, but it's giving you temptations, hatreds, frustration, people who are coming and migrating your country, and frustration is changing and getting obsession, and obsession is very dangerous for your society. You see people trained by the French government, by the French education system, and then turn against them. And we need to take something. We need not only a declaration, but we need to do more concrete steps. And let's facing on the second panel.
So hang on. When you say concrete steps, you already mentioned the media and you mentioned education.
I mentioned the education, the media, and the third, which is very, very important
but
for
hang
us.
on, just on those. I'm a journalist. I kind of immediately feel skeptical and suspicious of politicians who say, you know, we need the media to send this message. It is not, with all due respect, for you politicians to tell me, an independent journalist, the message I have to send in my work.
I cannot advise a senior journalist of Europe about that, but I can see that sometimes we are more tolerant than is necessary when somebody attack a different person because he have different opinions, and then from different opinions with a very good, let's say, speech, he can change and move people and they go to vote, and you're going to see this kind of political parties getting inside your parliament, getting on the European Parliament. Luckily for me, I have 18 minorities representing in the parliament. Luckily for me, we don't have this kind of politicians in my country, and we do not export to the Brussels. But this is the message that I learned in my country when a senior journalist see that a young, an old politician want to attack a different person, which is a politician, and send hate messages, racist messages, anti-Semitic messages. All the journalists ban him and ban the political party which is coming, sending him to the media. That is it's an agreement, a kutuma, what we call all the politicians. On the second time, we politicians must take concrete step. For example, in my country, we decide to have a National Holocaust Day. We decide to have a national museum regarding the Holocaust and teaching the young generation. So these are concrete steps in a country which is belonging to Europe, to the democratic values, and we understand what's happening 17 years ago. And as my seniors experts said in the first two panels, yes, we must be all united, the NGOs, the civil society, the politicians. Look on us. We are 2 members of the European Union, but we are also 3 religions here. So we must all be united about this kind of approach. And we must see the seeds, the early warnings. Because now, you know, the treaty is not like in the old fashion, you know. The bad guys are there, the good guys are here, and we're going to fight. Now they can come in your country, they can go there, they're going to have a very good behavior. And like this, they can change and get against the country which is tolerant with him. So we must be very, very careful with that. I know that because, as I told you, in the last 25 years, we have a Jewish community representing in the national parliament, but we also have Muslims representing in the national parliament, so we know how to tackle this kind of problems.
All right, well, thank you for that. Mr. Umarkhanov, you come here as a representative of the Russian Federation, and I know yourself, you're from Dagestan, yes? And you are Muslim. And I just wonder, I want you to, we talked earlier with Mr. Yakunin about what message Russia is sending right now about its stand on tolerance and on its determination to root out extremism, hate messages, anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim feeling as well. There are many who look at Russia and feel that Vladimir Putin's government is dangerously associated with nationalism and xenophobia. What is your perception as a member of the Russian Federation, as a Muslim and a politician?
Да, спасибо, Стивен. Уважаемые коллеги, наверное, у России очень много недостатков, над многим нужно работать, но мне кажется, в том, что касается памяти, в том, что касается памяти Холокоста, в том, что касается межнационального согласия, Россия во многих случаях может служить примером. В России живет 154 народности и наций. В своем большинстве они представлены во всех органах государственной власти. Федеральных, региональных, местных. Я представляю Дагестан, об этом ведущий сказал. У нас проживает 3 миллиона человек. 100 народностей, из них 34 коренные, каждый из которых говорит на своем языке. До последнего времени в Дагестане был коллективный президент. Это 14 народностей, включая русских, евреев, чеченцев. Все 14 титульные народности входили в Государственный совет. И Государственный совет был высшим исполнительным органом страны. На сегодняшний день другая формула. Но я хочу сказать, что в России, в том числе на Кавказе, работают не только писанные законы, а их, кстати сказать, было немало принято и в том, что касается противодействия экстремизму, антисемитизму, более 100 законов и поправок с 1996 года, но и работают неписанные законы. Вот согласно одному из этих неписанных законов, в состав правительства, опять же, нет никаких квот. Просто это социальная практика, которая передается из поколения в поколение. Так вот, в состав правительства в обязательном порядке входят представители всех этих 14 народностей. Повторяю, и в том числе евреи, это у нас горские таты, которые распространены и живут на территории Дагестана и Азербайджана. Второе, что я хотел сказать, наверное, в стране, в той большой стране, которая потеряла 27 миллионов человек, допустить, чтобы были проявления неонацистских партий, группировок, ну, наверное, было бы, по крайней мере, кощунственно. И это правда, но это не вся правда. Вся правда заключается в том, что в середине, наверное, 90-х годов все же в России появились проявления неонацистских молодежных группировок, когда начались очень серьезные центробежные тенденции, прежде всего в регионах Северного Кавказа, когда начался неконтролируемый рост религиозного радикализма. Так вот, я упомянул цифру, это 100 с лишним законов и поправок. Но этого, конечно, мало, если не работали бы институты гражданского общества. Если бы...
But if I may say so, even in the last year, we've seen worrying signs of anti-Muslim, anti-Tatar activity in Crimea. Since Russian forces invaded Crimea and annexed Crimea, Tatar communities have suffered. We've seen the deaths of some independent journalists. I'm thinking as a Muslim from one of the Muslim regions within the Russian Federation, you must look at that and surely you must worry.
Да. Я так понимаю, что мы немножко дрейфуем в другую сторону, но тем не менее хотел бы сказать, что, конечно, обсуждая эту тему, нужно обсуждать ее очень глубоко и серьезно. И прежде всего нужно иметь в виду, что крымские татары пострадали в годы сталинизма, наверное, больше всего. По крайней мере, их реабилитация пришлась гораздо позже, чем у всех других народов. И вот эта вот рана крымско-татарских народов, она, конечно, очень, очень свежая. Применительно к тому, насколько они ущемлены или не ущемлены, я думаю, что это предмет отдельного разговора. Но хочу вам сказать, как уполномоченный по делам хаджа правительства Российской Федерации, в этом году на хадж в Саудовскую Аравию выехало 170 представителей крымских татар по российским паспортам через российскую хадж-миссию, в то время, когда самое большое количество, которое выезжало в предыдущие годы в составе Украины, было 65-70 человек. Если вы полагаете, или кто-то в этом зале полагает, что можно насильно заставить человека совершить хадж или паломничество, это будет большое заблуждение. Поэтому я думаю, что с крымскими татарами ведется работа, которая не может ограничиться только принятием законов. А такие законы уже в Крыму приняты по реабилитации крымско-татарского народа. Ну и, конечно, это работа всей мусульманской общины России.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Umakhanov. Now, I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Edelstein. I said I'd like to hear from European perspectives first and then come to you. But you sit here as a fellow of the Trades Union of Speakers of Parliament. You also sit here as somebody who sort of looks at what's happening in Europe from the perspective of Israel. When you look at the politics of Europe right now, and then loosely, I mean, I'm including, you know, Russia and maybe Turkey as well, do you sense that politicians have the will and the leadership capacity to steer Europe away from what some have described as a very dangerous moment where extremism, race hate, anti-Semitism appear to be on the rise?
Well, as you didn't call on the panel of speakers to be politically incorrect, I guess you couldn't even imagine such nightmare. I would try to start with politically correct remarks and probably then switch into the mode of a couple of previous panels. I was very happy to see the last video here showing different European leaders. I'm not saying that cynically, mind you, condemning strongly in the strongest possible language the events that we've been discussing. My problem is that the practical implementation of it still remains to be seen. I had a very uneasy moment with the leaders of the French Jewish community and several other European Jewish communities right after the funeral of the victims of this Hyper Kasher attack in Jerusalem.
In Paris? You mean in Paris? The attack in Paris? Or you mean, well, the attack was in Paris, but you mean you met them in Jerusalem?
Yeah, the funeral took place in Jerusalem.
Right.
The attack definitely happened in Paris. And they were all praising, and rightly so, the very proper reaction of the French government. And I said to them, and I'm saying to you, that I recall, being a minister those days and not a speaker, praising very sincerely the very proper reaction of the French government after what happened in Toulouse. And we weren't going to the question of demonstrations, yes or no, although, you know what, I promised to be politically incorrect. There is no doubt that there would be no demonstration if it were just about the Jews. It's not me who says that. I don't have the right to say that, I guess. I don't live in Europe. It's all the leaders of all the European Jewish communities that were in my office that day said that quite openly. And yes, there was press, and yes, there were cameras. They didn't whisper it into my ear. Okay? So I think that if you're asking me about the role of the European leadership, as I've said, it still remains to be seen. I can't take for granted the statement expressed in the first panel that it's very different from the 30s. We have different leadership. We have different, it was explained that the state is different, the European Union is there. Definitely the situation is different. It's always different. There's no direct comparison between two different historic periods. But having said all that, as I've said, none of us is a prophet. I don't know where these things develop. I do know for a fact that Holocaust didn't start, and it was mentioned here, with Auschwitz or mass extermination of Jews or anyone else. It started with the exact same things you as a journalist and all of your colleagues report about every day on the TV, in the newspapers. A rabbi attack, a stone thrown into the window, a synagogue being, painted with swastikas, you name it. So the exact same things are there. There's no direct comparisons. I don't have the answer, and no one has the answer how these things will develop. And as my Romanian colleague already mentioned, if we want something practical to happen, at least as speakers and parliamentarians, we'll try at least to promote some kind of joint declaration and some practical steps in terms of combating things and not just talking about them and condemning them in a very strong language.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm going to ask you one question which you may feel is irrelevant, some people in the hall may feel is irrelevant, but I'm not sure is completely irrelevant, and I'm going to put it to you, and I just want to know what you think. There's been a lot of talk about anti-Semitism, and the figures suggest it's on the rise in Europe. Some figures suggest that there has been a spike which, in timing, if nothing else, coincides with particular actions taken by your government, the Israeli government, like, for example, the offensive against Hamas in Gaza. And you can discuss the rights and wrongs of that, and I don't intend to do that now. But there appears to be some relationship with events that happen in Israel, because some people in Europe, it seems, cannot, or at least are seen not to be able to differentiate between anger with Israel and anger with Jews. There's one particular thing, political phenomenon, that has been happening in Israel in recent times that sometimes makes me wonder if this is really in the interests of Israel. It is the move by many in your parliament to have a change in the Israeli constitution, to have Israel formally declared, self-recognized as the homeland of the Jewish people. Some of your most senior politicians, including, I think, people like Tzipi Livni and Isaac Herzog, have said this is a terrible thing to do. It portrays Israel as racist, and it sends the wrong signal about Israel to the rest of the world. When you are in a situation where anti-Semitism is on the rise, is it not incumbent upon you as politicians in Israel to think very carefully about actions like this declaration of Israel as the land of the Jewish people?
Well, first of all, there are several questions, and they're all very relevant. I don't understand what is irrelevant here.
Good.
I think they're all very relevant. Let's start with the facts. The facts are that that was our theory. I, in my previous capacity, was Minister of Diaspora Affairs, and as such, in charge of reporting to the government about the state of anti-Semitism, monitoring anti-Semitism. We lived with that idea that when there is some operation, say, in Gaza or something, then immediately you see a rise in anti-Semitic accidents all over Europe. My first report was submitted to the government about the year 2009, when nothing, thank God for a change, happened in our area, but there was economic crisis, and the numbers of anti-Semitic events, anti-Semitic demonstrations, anti-Semitic statements didn't go down. Just instead of blaming Jews for what Israel was doing, Jews once again became the money launderers and those who possess all the money and those who are in charge of the economic crisis. By the way, not necessarily only in Europe. Occupy Wall Street had a record of great anti-Semitic slogans right in New York and Washington. So I guess it's even broader than Europe. So to sum it up, to sum this part up, yes, you can see the connection. No, anti-Semitism wouldn't disappear even after the signing of comprehensive peace agreements in the Middle East. Point number two would be, yes, we should be and are very careful about the influence on the station of Jewish communities about everything we are doing. By the way, even, and I even take the credit, even when planning certain military operations or attacks. But having said that, I think that to define the non-existing legislation, and once again, no one is a prophet. There was a suggestion to legislate something that is similar to the Declaration of Independence for certain reasons in the modern Israeli law. Some liked it, some liked it less. To define a non-existing legislation, and my colleagues speakers would, I guess, confirm that something submitted is in many cases very different from what goes out during the legislation process as a move, an act that could give new fuel to anti-Semitic attacks. I think it's a little bit far-fetched.
No, but did you think it was a mistake? Did you think it was racist as it was first proposed, this idea of declaring Israel to be the state, the homeland of the Jewish people?
I saw three different versions of it. None was racist. Some were more straightforward, some were more general. None of them definitely was racist. And by the way, to address this point, I think that Israel has been dealing with the issue that Europe is dealing right now for years and years and decades. And I think, and you're right, nobody's perfect, and we still have a lot of drawbacks in Israel, but I think that we are more or less managing to find the right balance between freedom of speech, freedom of political parties. In the whole history of Israel, there was only one political party that was banned from elections. That was the ultra-right-wing Jewish party headed by the late Rabbi Meir Kahane. There was no other case of banning a political party, though some of them, for example, when your prime minister, your British prime minister, or the French President Hollande come to Israel and address the plenary session of the Knesset, there's a faction that openly says that it doesn't have anything to do with the State of Israel. Thus, they boycott every guest coming to the State of Israel, even if 5 minutes before he was visiting Abbas and the Palestinian Authority. So I guess we go pretty far I don't think actually there is one other parliament in the world that goes that far on that issue. And the last but never least, I think that the influence of Israel and everything Israel is doing maybe sometimes cause for anti-Semitism, but what I was lacking a little bit in the statements of the previous plenary session here, yes, Jews are stronger, yes, they are more aware, yes, there was Holocaust. I think that the very existence of the State of Israel somehow also serves a certain balance towards those who are trying to be openly anti-Semitic or to make it into political leadership of this or that country with anti-Semitic slogans and anti-Semitic platforms.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As you may have noticed if you've glanced at your watches, we're kind of in the red zone time-wise already, and I haven't asked anybody for any questions of our parliamentarians, our speakers of parliaments, but there's a couple of hands up, so we'll quickly try and get some questions. I'll take 2 or 3 at a time just to make it a bit quicker. You, sir, at the back with your hand up, let's get a microphone to you. And you, madam, you start, madam, because you've got a microphone already. You, yeah. Tell us what you want to say.
My name is Helena Sanek, and I'm Executive Director of the European Shoah Legacy Institute. And I would like to bring to your attention, dear politicians, one simple fact that Holocaust didn't end in 1945, because Holocaust was not just mass murder, but it was also mass theft, when property was stolen, and it was elimination, an attempt to eliminate European Jewry from Europe. And 70 years after the end of the Second World War, we are still dealing with these issues. And my organization is monitoring the performance of the Terrorism Declaration, which was endorsed by all of your countries, and sometimes, I have to admit, it's extremely difficult to convince governments to address this issue, saying nothing about not having a focal point, a counterpart within the European Union who we can address and discuss these issues these days. And I'm personally very much convinced that if the question of Holocaust would remain on the agenda, maybe we will be more successful dealing with anti-Semitism these days. Thank you.
Okay, all right, well, yes, you, hang on, has anybody got a microphone already? Yeah, you have, sir, go on then.
Yes, hello, my name is George Prat, I'm the Brazilian ambassador to the Czech Republic. I don't see too many non-Europeans here, so first of all...
Sorry, so which country are you ambassador?
Brazil.
Brazil, sorry,
right.
Go on.
So I'd like to thank for the invitation for Brazil to be present at this meeting. I'd like to stress the point that racism, extremism, hate speech, intolerance are worldwide problems. And we should not lose sight of that. We should not reduce this problem to an European problem, because I think that we need the whole world to fight it. Secondly, I like to say that all over the world, there are people who are victims to those problems, and we should not try to fight those problems only under the perspective of anti-Semitism. Because if we do that, we are dividing ourselves, and we are becoming weaker, and it will make it more difficult for us to fight this problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. Has anybody got a microphone? Because if not, we'll get microphones to a couple more people. You have, sir. Okay, go ahead. Then we'll come to you. If we can get a microphone here too.
Hello, yeah. My name is Peter Niedermüller, and I am the Hungarian member, one of the Hungarian members of the European Parliament. You talked a lot about anti-Semitism, and I think so there is another kind of anti-Semitism in Europe which is very, very dangerous. And just take the example of my country, where the current government has changed, for example, the school books, using slightly anti-Semitic cultural and political traditions bringing the school. There is a new monument in the center of the city talking or sending the suggestions that the Hungarian society has nothing to do with Holocaust. It was a kind of conflict between Germans and Jews. So I think it's a very important issue to talk about this not open anti-Semitism, just this kind of slightly or soft anti-Semitism, which is, I think, sometimes exactly so dangerous like the open anti-Semitism. And I think we have to think about it, what to do in education and in the media as well against this kind of anti-Semitism. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, did you get a microphone, sir? Is there? We're running short of time, so be quick if you can.
My name is Dr. Eddie Cohen. I'm a researcher, Middle East Affairs expert from Bar-Ilan University. I want to ask Mr. Yudelstein a question, and all of you. Now, in 2015, if you go to the Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas, you see his doctoral dissertation. It's a book he wrote about secret connection between the Nazism and the Zionism. Now, in 2015, this book is plenty of Nazi propaganda, of anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial. He said that David Ben-Gurion cooperated with Adolf Hitler. He said that all the Holocaust is a Jewish conspiracy. No one in Israel, we have a bad public diplomacy. No one do anything. I came here especially to say this to you and to all the world, that in 2015, thousands of Arabs entered to his website and think that the Holocaust is a Jewish invention and conspiracy theory that the Zionists and Nazism cooperated together.
All right. Well, I really apologize. I'm going to have to draw a close to more questions. So let's quickly go through these. If anybody feels like making a comment, please do. Number one, the lady was pointing out that in a sense the Holocaust and restitution for the crimes of the Holocaust isn't over, because she was pointing out about theft of property issues which European politicians say that they want to finally resolve forever, but they haven't. Why is there not the will to resolve all of these outstanding issues from the Holocaust period, including theft of property, etc., etc.? Anybody want to?
Well, as far as I know, there are also some examples in the Czech Republic, and they are being argued in front of a court. So I think eventually these things have to be resolved, but we need a court decision first.
Right, but we are talking, on the 70th anniversary of
the
end of the liberation.
We are lagging behind a little bit because until 89...
Well, behind a little bit is a euphemism.
Until 1989, it was not really possible to argue these things over here. So it has been 25 years in our modern history. Right. And I think we have resolved a lot of things from the past that were wrong, and we try to remedy those. This is something that remains to be done, but as far as I know, these are individual cases that are being argued in front of a court. Once we have a court decision, I think the state can handle it.
Right. Mr. Číček, were you wanting to get in at this point quickly?
Evet, söyleyeceğim husus şu Sayın Başkan. Evvela Holocaust vesilesiyle bu toplantıyı yapıyoruz. Ama büyük bir endişeyle takip ettiğimiz, vardığımız sonuç şu ki, Holocaust'u da içine alan büyük bir nefret söylemiyle ve eylemiyle dünya karşı karşıyadır. Bunu evvela bir kabul etmemiz lazım. Daraltıcı değil, İslam karşıtlığı ve başka türlü ayrımcılığın her türlüsünü de bir endişe olarak kabul edip ortak bir tavır koyamazsak, o zaman yeni tartışmalara kapı aralamış oluruz. İkincisi, yine burada da ifade edildi, 1,5 milyarlık bir İslam dünyası var. Bu İslam dünyasının en çok etkilendiği konu Filistin-İsrail ihtilafıdır. Filistinlerin Birleşmiş Milletlerce kabul edilen hakları garanti altına alıp ve İsrail hükümeti, dostça söylüyorum, samimi olarak söylüyorum, bu toplantıya katılan tek bir Müslüman ülkenin temsilcisi olarak söylüyorum. İsrail bu konuda bir öz eleştiri yapıp biz nerede yanlış yaptık ve yapıyoruz diye, böyle iki bir arasında değil, aleni, açıkça bunu söylemediği sürece Avrupa'da ne olur ne gider onu tartışabiliriz, ama İslam dünyasındaki Bu ve benzeri gelişmelerin temelinde Filistin sorununun çözülememiş olması yatıyor. Şu veya bu sebeple o tartışmalara girmeyeceğim. Bu önemli ve belirleyici bir faktördür. Bunu görmemezlikten geldiğimiz sürece bu toplantılarda bunları konuşuruz. Bir üçüncüsü, o da şudur Sayın Başkan, burada hiç üzerinde durulmayan konu. Özgürlükler esastır, ifade özgürlüğü esastır. Bir cümle söyleyip bitiriyorum. İfade özgürlüğü esastır ama bu özgürlüğü kullananlar sorumsuzca toplumların ve insanların inançlarına hakareti de bunu içeriyor tarzında yorumladığımız takdirde ki İnsan Hakları Mahkemesi bunu böyle yorumlamıyor. O takdirde biz özgürlük ve sorumluluk dengesini kuramadığımız takdirde yeni tartışmalara, yeni nefret söylemlerine kapı aralamış oluruz.
Yeah, I mean, all right, there is no, as far as I know, there's no defined right not to be offended in a democratic system. But anyway, let's not get stuck on that because we've had lots of debate about that. I just want to move through the last two because we're really short of time. I just wondered if anybody on the panel felt strongly, as the Brazilian ambassador did, that he seemed to be indicating sometimes discussions such as this one, on a day such as this, on the eve of what we're all aware of as the big Memorial Day tomorrow, focus perhaps a lot of our attention on anti-Semitism, and he says, racism and intolerance, hate crimes, these are worldwide problems, and this isn't just an issue about anti-Semitism, and maybe sometimes there is a focus on anti-Semitism which loses sight of the global, more generalized problem of extremism, hate crime, which is related to anti-Semitism but not always about anti-Semitism. Do people on the panel feel that? You
I just
go.
want to answer to that question. Of course, outside the EU, you have a different approach. Of course, different countries have taken, let's say, democratic values and principles and bringing to their countries. But this is the place where we experience Holocaust. This is the place where people feel safe. This is a place where if you make a polls outside the EU, you're going to see that most of the people, so they want to send their children here to go to schools. They want to live here because it's a social Europe. You have protections, you have securities, you have values. You can build a prosperity to your family. That's the difference between Europe, continental or no, and the other parts of the world. So that's why we are discussing, because we are facing now in the 21st centuries a different approach that we think that we have chosen after the Second World War. And of course, we politicians, we must see the early, let's say, messages. And with you, the media, with the university professors, we must take an action plan now, not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow, because it's going to be late, like in Paris or in Toulouse or in Brussels. So we need now to give this place the secure place that it was when we ended the Second World War. That's the problem for the future generation. So they need from us to see that the politicians in the 21st century, in 2015, they are united, they have the same tools, they have the same action plan, no matter that in Romania, in France, in Norway, or in the United Kingdom. So this is the main reason that we get here, to have the same action plan, the same tools for whole Europe.
All right, and I think this might have to be the last word because we're out of time, but I think, Uli Edelstein, you wanted to say something and draw us to a close.
Just a short remark about this point, and I promise to be politically incorrect. If it were not for the efforts of the then Israeli foreign minister and for some other courageous people in the United Nations, let's just recall that International Holocaust Memorial Day is very young. There was nothing like it 12, 15 years ago. If it were not for their efforts, there would be another UN resolution about fighting racism and xenophobia and hate speech and this and that, and point number 7 with the anti-Semitism moving into all kinds of other issues. There would be no Holocaust Memorial Day. There would be no impressive events you've just been talking about. No one will be discussing it. No parliament will hold a special session. There will be another UN resolution no one will ever forget. This is a message probably to us with this declaration on accompanying anti-Semitism we are trying to accept. There are other important issues. I will be more than willing to join my colleagues in fighting xenophobia racism, any other thing that I can contribute to fighting against. But if we want to call a spade, let's call a spade, and let's concentrate on a certain issue. I care about all the humanity, one person at a time. And if this is not the approach, it will be always wishy-washy.
All right. You know what? I've left some questions hanging in the air, and I know there are other hands up who would like to make a contribution, but unfortunately, I'm very aware that we all have, I think most of us have a dinner at the Municipal House to go to. There are other events as well this evening. So all I can say, ladies and gentlemen, is I, as the moderator of all of this, have gotten so much out of this afternoon. I hope you have too. Please give a very warm hand to my last panel and to yourselves for being so patient and such a great audience. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you, panel. Thank you very much.